A planned news conference between Ukrainian President Zelenskyy and Ukraine envoy General Keith Kellogg was canceled. Both were supposed to answer media questions after meeting yesterday, but they only took pictures. Now, this is after President Trump called for Zelenskyy to hold elections, slamming him as a dictator. Zelenskyy saying Trump is living in, quote, Russian disinformation. National Security Advisor Michael Waltz explains the president's position. Watch.
His goal, Peter, is to bring this war to an end, period. His frustration with President Zelenskyy is that you've heard is multifold. There needs to be a deep appreciation for what the American people, what the American taxpayer, what President Trump did. So some of the rhetoric coming out of Kyiv, frankly, and insults to President Trump were unacceptable. Our own Secretary of Treasury personally made the trip to offer for America to co-invest with Ukraine in their minerals, in their resources, to truly grow the pie. Rather than enter into some constructive conversations, we got a lot of rhetoric in the media that was incredibly unfortunate.
Zelensky's aides reportedly pushing him to accept an improved version of Trump's rare earth minerals deal. This is according to a report in Axios, to shore up U.S. aid and avoid future conflict. Joining me now is Indiana Congresswoman Victoria Spartz. She is the commissioner of the U.S. Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe. And Congresswoman, again, I always lean on you and your background. I want to get your reaction to kind of where we are right now between the United States and Ukraine, because there's a report in the Wall Street Journal that a GOP congressperson was in Munich, and Zelenskyy said that he was pressured pretty severely by Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, to sign the mineral agreement right then and there. When Zelenskyy said, no, I want to look at it, take it back to my people, and Bessent was reportedly, according to the Journal, saying, you need to sign this. People in Washington will not be happy if you do not. What do you make of this?
Well, listen, there are a lot of different speculation, but the fact is, I think it's not a wise idea, you know, to President Zelenskyy try to be insulting president of the country, that the only chance for him to survive that war against Putin, the country that give $100 billion, you know, to at least for him not to lose that war completely. So I think he needs to be respectful of President Trump, and President Trump is a very concrete person. We need to have real policies. Unfortunately, we passed Lend-Lease, which, you know, would allow us to get some of the money back and have better oversight, but President Biden did nothing about it, you know, and we need to become better because Ukraine does have a lot of rare earth minerals, and we need to make sure that they go to China, and President Trump understands it, and a lot of deals were made. Who knows where with whom by Russians and Ukrainians, so we need to make sure that after spending so much money, at least we not have China taking control of them.
Understood, but even this morning, the front cover of the New York Post, it says this is a dictator, and there's a huge picture of Vladimir Putin. And the fact that, you know, Donald Trump blaming Zelenskyy and saying that he's the reason the war started when we all know it was Russia that attacked Ukraine 3 years ago. That's fact. So, you know, war of words aside between the two leaders, do you believe that Ukraine should give up mineral rights to the United States? Do you think that's the correct path for them?
Well, let's go back to the question. There is no doubt Putin a dictator, you know, and he been having dictatorship and killing a lot of Russians. The reality that Ukrainian people are dying for freedoms, and Zelenskyy created the same environment in Ukraine. He wants to be a dictator too, which is a different conversation. So a lot of legitimate reasons, you know, that President Trump raised. I think that's very legitimate. It's unfortunate. That's not what brave Ukrainians are dying for. But I think we need to have discussion about rare earth minerals. We need to make sure, I mean, no one sends blank checks. You know, we're the only countries that send blank checks with no oversight, and we'll go bankrupt. As you know, we're in trouble, so we need to make sure that whatever we're doing, it's in our national interest, and we have proper oversight. So I think it's a legitimate discussion to have, but it's also there is a big risk. If you know, a long time ago, President Trump stopped some deals that Ukrainians were trying to make from with Chinese, and that's a real concern. China wasn't helping Ukraine, they were helping Russia. Let's have a discussion. What is going to happen with this rare earth mineral? So I think it's a serious conversation, but also, unfortunately, you know, we haven't had good strategies, and Europe been weak on Russia, and they need to start paying more for, you know, to deter this aggression. It will go further.
Well, that's what Vice President J.D. Vance said at the Munich Security Conference last week. It was one of the biggest moments. The silence in the room was incredible when he said enough is enough. And Michael Waltz said that yesterday on Fox News Channel, that Europe has got, especially NATO members, have got to pony up and start spending 2% of your GDP into NATO. There's still 4 years later. They were told 4 years ago, you've got to put the money. If you want a NATO defense, you want to be a member of NATO, pay up. Is that language, do you think, working with the European partners that we have in NATO?
Well, I think they need to get a reality check. And the last time when President Trump sent that message, at least they got it a little bit better. But it's unfortunately, the war started. Instead of taking it seriously, they do like talks and conversations. Putin doesn't care about talks. He's a bandit. He's a criminal. He cares about weapons. He assesses the situation to understand. And unfortunately, Ukraine was weak. President Zelenskyy didn't get country ready. He had a lot of corruption, and Putin had an opportunity. So here is a fault of Zelenskyy that Putin attacked. If he would have been great president and made country strong, help his military instead his corrupt friends, he would have thought twice. But unfortunately, he saw opportunities. And the same with Europe. Putin will see more opportunities. He will advance further. That's why Europe needs to become serious and start defending their continent if they don't want them to be taken over, and not always wait for Americans to come and send our kids for them. I think they need to really become realistic and real. And Europe is full of drama. They're doing a lot of propaganda discussions about nothing and not dealing with serious issues. Don't have serious energy policies, and really don't have immigration policy, open the borders. Economies are in trouble, and they're waiting that we are going to be paying for all of their problems now. We have a life of our own. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought up the immigration crisis in Europe. It has been bad for several years. Real quick, back here at home in Washington, so the Senate was up all night, as you know, that marathon vote-a-rama to pass the $345 billion budget blueprint. It provides border and defense money, but President Trump wants the Senate to get behind the House's budget bill, which funds all parts of his agenda. He wants that still big, beautiful bill. Vice President Vance talked about it. Listen.
I actually talked to the president about this yesterday, and he said to me, look, it's very rare that you can get two reconciliation bills done in one Congress, which is why he thinks we've got to do a lot with that one big, beautiful bill, that first reconciliation package that we're going to get through the House and the Senate. It's going well. It's early, right? This stuff takes time to put together. I think, if you had a record pace reconciliation bill, we would get this thing done in May or in June. I think we're on track to do that.
Republican members of the Hispanic Congressional Caucus sent a letter to Speaker Johnson. They're voicing concerns about potential cuts to Medicaid and other essential programs in that budget. But, Congresswoman, we all know that the biggest drags on the budget are Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Your reaction?
Well, actually, Social Security is not dragged yet. It will be later.
It's not insolvent. It's not insolvent yet. It's not
insolvent yet. It will. It's not actually. Actually, we'll have to deal with that, and we'll have to deal on bipartisan basis. But it's not contributing to our national debt yet. But healthcare is, and fraud in healthcare. Unfortunately, this program has been so broad, and they now, in a lot of big healthcare cartels, are using it as a money laundering machine, and they be able to launder a lot of money, and a lot of people don't even realize what they're doing, destroying these programs. We need to have time to have this conversation, bring transparency so the American people see what's happening, because that's where really billions and hundred billions of dollars and trillions in offsets are sitting, but unfortunately Democrats have been spreading propaganda and lies, and a lot of my colleagues don't even realize what's happening there. So I think we might need to have a two-step bill to have these discussions, or we'll have to have a serious discussion, adult conversation now, because as you know, if we don't get our spending under control, we will have high interest rates, we will have inflation, we will have high taxes, we will have insolvency on all of the programs that we promised to the people. Our economy will be in big trouble. So we have to have this, and we have to get it done, whichever steps, I don't care, as long as we're going to be eliminating fraud.
Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, always enjoy talking to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.